Hey, beautiful people, it's Ron Johnson, and it's Friday. It's not a beautiful Friday. It's gloomy. It's supposed to rain all weekend, but we are here for you. We're going to make the sun a little bit brighter wherever you are. I'm Ron Johnson, the host of Locked On Sports Minnesota's Friday Roundtable. We got Reggie Wilson. We got Julia Daniels. She's in there with the Mission Impossible background right now, like she's about to go pull off a heist. Let me get a piece of that, Julia. If you whatever you steal today,
No.
I need 10%, or I'm telling. We got Sam Ekstrom, the executive producer. I'm telling Julia, 10%. That does it all. Sam Ekstrom, Reggie Wilson, and Julia Daniels from Care 11. And of course, I'm Ron Johnson, former Gophers wide receiver, Gophers Hall of Famer. And we have to talk about a bunch of stuff in Minnesota. I mean, you think about the Twins. The Timberwolves season is over, but the Twins, Royce Lewis is back. We've talked about that. I've said it before. He's a potential top 10 player in the league, based off some of the experts. That's not me. I haven't watched a ton of them. You also have the Lynx are back in town now. They're playing good ball. You have the WNBA records are being broken. Fights are breaking out. Outfits are what we're paying attention to. But you know what, man? There's a lot of haters in the NFL. There's a lot of haters in the media. But we're going to cover all of that today on today's roundtable. But I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, though, so make sure you guys check those out before you buy that. That's Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. I've used the Gametime app. It's pretty simple. But, people, we got to get locked in on today's topics. There's a lot of stuff we can talk about. Reggie, what you got for us?
W Talk on the pod today. I'm excited about that. The Lynx power rankings got them as third in the league right now, but are they the best team in the W right now?
And Royce Lewis is doing exactly what I said he would do when he came back from injury. Is he the face of the Twins now? And is he the most exciting Twin to watch? We'll talk about it.
The NBA draft is in 5 days, and the Wolves have been linked to Bronny. Stay away, Timberwolves. I'll tell you why.
Stay away. Why not get Bronny? Come on now. But we'll hear what Sam has to say about that one. I like Bronny, and LeBron will be here. Savannah's going to show up. I mean, we'll get into that in a minute with the show, but we got to hit the A topic, the Minnesota Vikings offseason grades. Now, every year, people try to fill up the airways with all kinds of slander, ways to get back into this year's slander is the Minnesota Vikings. They have the Minnesota Vikings rankings. We're going to talk about that. And is it true or is it false? Is it a trend or it is a mirage? We'll do all that and much more coming up next on the roundtable. I want to also make sure you guys know you can download Locked On Sports Minnesota on SXM. This XXM app, make sure you guys download it on any platform you have. Just download, search SXM or whatever app market you're using, and then you can search Locked On Sports Minnesota. Download it. You can take all of your shows on the go. If you're on the treadmill, whatever you're doing, you can listen to our shows. Well, let's jump into the show, man. And I'm going to start it off with this Vikings talk. It's a lot of slander, like I said, going on in the NFL, and right now, executives, ESPN, people, everybody's thoroughly unimpressed with the Vikings offseason moves. Here's one. They draft J.J. McCarthy. They do have to give up a little bit to get him, but it's worth it if he's your future. Then they moved again to get Dallas Turner. Now, people are saying, did they do too much to get Dallas Turner? Did they give up too much to get J.J. McCarthy? Well, what is too much for your future? What is too much for your franchise? Because if these are your franchise players, if these guys end up being rookie of the year for defense, if he ends up in 2 years being the head of the snake with quarterback play for the Minnesota Vikings, giving Justin Jefferson that elusive 2,000-yard season, can we look back and say, you know what? Who cares about your grades? It's like looking back at your report card when you're in the third grade and like, oh, man, I can't believe I got so many incompletes. Who cares? You graduated, you're grown up with a job. That's what these grades feel like to me. It feels like third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade grades that when your grandmother comes to visit you, she brings you a box and she's like, here's the box that I had in my attic this whole time. And it's like your 10-year-old championship trophy at the apple pie fair. Who cares? Throw it away. It's your fifth grade report card with all A's and exceptional. Who cares? It does not matter. If you failed gym in the 5th grade, who cares? Because you know what? Eventually it paid off. You became a great athlete. And so that's where I go with that. I understand these grades. I understand the moves and not having a lot of draft picks in the future. I understand getting guys that maybe they think, oh, well, if you're going to start Sam Darnold, you went and got J. Like if they had said JJ McCarthy was a starter right now, I think people would have a different idea. If they come out and say Dallas Turner is our starting outside linebacker, I think people are having a different idea. The fact that the Vikings are slow playing these rookies, everybody's trying to downplay them making these moves to have guys that are going to be potential backups for the season. That's stupid. That is not what this is about. When people went and got Patrick Mahomes, when people drafted, guys that had to sit, nobody thought about it at the time. And now they're like, man, that was a smart move to let Aaron Rodgers sit. Because I'm pretty sure if we go back to articles about the Packers and how they, drafted Aaron Rodgers and then let him sit, people are probably like, oh man, you got this Ferrari in the garage and you got this old, Chevy Tahoe. What are you doing? And Brett Favre ended up playing his career, career out there. And then he moves on to a couple different teams. Aaron Rodgers becomes a Hall of Famer. So I say, who cares what your grades are right now? It doesn't matter. I think the Minnesota Vikings are just fine. We will find out in a year or two what this draft meant to the Minnesota Vikings. Because we can go back to the Rick Spielman one where none of the guys on the roster, we can say that one sucked. That was a D. But we'll talk about that. What do you guys think? I'm going to go with you, Sam.
Yeah, so this C- that ESPN gives the offseason comes on the heels of PFF ranking the Vikings quarterback situation 31st in the league. So they've taken some arrows from some pretty big outlets here. But I couldn't disagree more with the logic behind this grade. This is a Seth Walder piece. He really hates the trade up for Turner, really hates it. And he also mentions that they might have messed up their compensatory formula and lost a 3rd-round pick, which we don't even know is true. That's not confirmed at all. But there's no mention here of Andrew Van Ginkel. There's no mention of Blake Cashman. No mention of Aaron Jones or retaining Dalton Reisner. It's basically just you traded too much up in the draft. Well, did they sign guys? Yeah, they did. They improved the defense. They are actually pretty active in free agency, and I think got better. And you added 3 edge rushers with Grenard, Van Ginkel, and Turner. You solidify the linebacker core. You help your secondary. Did a lot. They did a lot this offseason. So I think C- is that's putting a lot of weight on. You lost Kirk Cousins. I mean, that's not even mentioned in the write-up. That's what it feels like to me. But yeah, I think that C- is super harsh for a team that clearly is in sort of retooling mode, getting a fresh quarterback in, going a little younger at that position and trying to build around them. I feel like the vision's pretty clear. I don't think they bungled anything this offseason. I think they executed their plan almost to perfection.
Yeah, and this looks like a guy that doesn't follow the Vikings, to be honest. It's just looking at the draft, looking like you said. I think this is a 100% draft piece. He should have hit up, what's his name? Who's the Vikings beat writer for ESPN?
Kevin
Seifert. Yeah, he should have hit up Seifert and be like, hey, what have the Vikings done this offseason? Because I really don't know and how good of an impact it's going to possibly potentially be for this team. That's what it feels like. Because you're right. There's no mention of the actual offseason moves. It's just the draft. That's all he's talking about, the draft and the fact that the quarterback situation, quote unquote, for the Vikings is the worst in the NFL. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Julia?
I was thinking the same thing. I was going to start out by saying this seems like another situation where Minnesota got overlooked a little bit, which sucks. It sucks for these teams. But, I mean, the end of the day, who's it really hurting, right? You get to be an underdog at this point. But I did think it was interesting the emphasis that he put on how overpriced Dallas Turner was, when at the end of the day, the Vikings weren't going. They weren't trading up from 42 to 23 for Dallas Turner. They were trading up in hopes that they could bundle something and get higher in the draft. Things turned out the way I think that they hoped it to. I think actually things turned out better than the Vikings were hoping it was going to turn out, because then they didn't have to use 23 to go up and get JJ McCarthy. They got him at 10 instead. And then they also got Dallas Turner, at 17 at that point, because they, traded a 4th-round pick or something like that. So I think that the emphasis that all of this price is on Dallas Turner and this, that, and the other is just that's not how it takes 2 to tango to get into a higher spot. And the Vikings just they weren't able to make the trade that they were looking for. But honestly, I think it turned out better for them in the end. And I think as an Alabama girl, people are really underestimating Dallas Turner. And also I think people just underestimate defensive players in the draft in general. But we don't know if the Dallas Turner thing was overpriced or not yet because we've yet to see him play. So I think that just the fact that they're, like you're saying, the fact that Van Ginkel and Cashman and all these guys that they signed and that they did all the things that they did to improve their defense, like the fact that none of that's in there is telling enough and what comes to this grade. So I think it's pretty harsh. I think that sure they lost, like we've talked about, for months now. They lost some key players, but they filled their holes with more bodies. And I think that nobody, or at least he didn't take that into account when he put this grade out.
Yeah, it seems like in that particular one, he was just like, all right, I got everybody else. Oh, shoot, Minnesota. What did they do? Sam Darnold and drafted JJ McCarthy, and then they traded up for Dallas Turner. Okay, yeah, C-. That seems about right. And it seems like he didn't really like take the time to do a little bit more research on some of the other moves that the Vikings did. So much so that he only had 3 teams graded worse than the Vikings in his article. It was the Cowboys, the Raiders, and the Saints, who all had a D, which is like, okay, fine, I guess. But I think, you don't take into account even Brian Flores coming back for year 2. Like that was an offseason win as well. I think the tough part about grading offseason moves is nobody has hit the field yet against other teams. And so you can't really like forecast or really predict how a team is going to do based on the moves that they made. But they were active, as Sam said, and they made moves to try to improve the team. And you got to give them some credit for that, whether you like the moves or not. And that even wasn't clear in the article if he liked the moves, other than the fact that he thought that they overpaid in the draft. And the interesting part about the whole thing is, yeah, they didn't have to mortgage the future to go up to 3 or 4 to try to get a guy like Drake May. And they didn't do that. They moved up a spot and were able to get JJ McCarthy. But, look, still haven't understood or seen what exactly Dallas Turner is going to be. But by all accounts, he just may be the best pass rusher in this year's draft. And they grabbed him at 17. Like, I thought that was a really good move for them to be able to keep both of their first round picks, get an impact player on offense and an impact player on defense. You kind of look at what the Texans did last year, getting CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. That helped propel them, amongst the other moves that they made and getting the coaching in there that they did, to a playoff team this year. They won a playoff game and went to the next round and had one of the best rookie quarterbacks that we've seen in recent years. And I'm not saying that the Vikings are going to do that because, maybe they're taking a little bit more of a conservative approach with JJ McCarthy, but they did the things that you are supposed to do when you're trying to build a team. And this competitive rebuild that Kwesi's been talking about since he's gotten there, they've kind of put that into motion since he's been there. And I think you got to give him some kind of credit for that, but C- seems a little harsh.
Yeah, Reggie. And when you think about, like, you made up a great point, and Reggie, this, and Julia, Sam, we've all seen this. I don't think we can truly explain what we've seen in Dallas Turner because the Vikings don't want the media to really talk about what they've seen. It's like you can talk about how players look. You can talk about how fast maybe they're running, how crisp their routes are, maybe how great they're catching the ball, N'Keal Harry, the tight end. But we can't really explain strategy yet and how Dallas Turner looks around this defense and what they're doing with them. And so I get it. It's smart. Why let the world know what he's going to be? Why give people an idea, an inkling of the potential of this defense? And so maybe they're slow playing it. Maybe that's the reason why. Maybe, Vikings fans, hey, if you want to go to FanDuel and put some money on the Vikings now because everybody's doubting them, why not do it now? Like, do it now before everybody sees that game one defense and they're like, oh, shoot, I didn't realize this guy was going to be this good. But speaking of defense, the Timberwolves had a solid defense this year. They are potentially trying to bring in a new young guard that might be one of the hinch or what is it called? What is it? Linchpin? I think is what I forgot the term.
Linchpin, yeah.
Is it linchpin of the defense? I don't know. But this kid can play point guard. He can play backup shooting guard. I mean, he can back up all the guards. And he might bring his daddy with him. But we'll talk about that and much more. Of course, the WNBA. Of course, Royce Lewis, who's a top 10 player in the MLB, according to what I've seen on TV recently. And we'll do that much more after word from our sponsors.
All right. Before we talk Bronny, we're going to talk about Gametime, an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. You get tickets fast, you get them easily, and you get them cheaply. Cheaper, in fact, every second that goes by that you get closer to first pitch. Those last second deals are so valuable at Gametime. You can get into Target Field, watch the Twins playing good baseball right now. Lost a couple tough extra inning games. That's okay. Priority last minute deals, flash deals, zone deals, all ways to save money with Gametime. I particularly like when you choose a section, Gametime chooses the seats, and you save. With the Gametime ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, no lie. Super easy to get your tickets at Gametime. Couple clicks, all-in prices, views from your seat. Just take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDON. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Well, the NBA draft is coming up, people. And there's a big time name. I mean, to me, it's a big time name. Some people might think it's not big time. I know Sam doesn't. So, Sam, what's going on with the Timberwolves draft? And what don't you like about it?
All right. So the draft's in 5 days. Wolves have 27 and 37. This is a bad draft. And that's allowed everyone to just focus on Bronny. They're just going to talk about Bronny because that's the one guy that everybody knows, Bronny James. I've read the scouting reports, and they're not good. This guy should not be coming out of college. He should be going back and honing his game. I think even his dad basically admitted that. Like in a tweet last year, he said, let Bronny enjoy college basketball, let him develop his game there. But he is in the NBA draft. And I think there's a couple teams that will probably take swings on him, right? Like the Suns, where have been talked about. The Lakers, of course, have been discussed as a landing place for Bronny. That would make a lot of sense. The Lakers at 55 could take Bronny right before the draft is done. But one of the insiders tweeted out a few days ago that Minnesota has expressed interest in Bronny. And I'm telling you, with 27 and 37, I don't think that's a wise move. You know how many times, this is just speaking on 27 for a moment. You know how many times the Wolves have their own first round pick in the next 4 drafts? One time. It's this year. You got to take advantage of this first round pick because this is like the only one you have, basically. You have a pick swap in 2026. Doesn't matter. This year, you need someone old, someone that can come in and supplement the talent you have because you need to get production on a budget now. You're a very expensive team. You need these draft picks to contribute. Bronny is a project. If he becomes his dad, I don't think he's going to become his dad for another couple of years because he can't shoot right now. So I've just got a hard time getting on board with a ball of clay that may or may not turn into anything, who the experts say is not a viable prospect. I'm not a fan of it. Now, if they take him at 37 with the second round pick, maybe I'm a little more okay with that. But that's still pretty valuable real estate. They've shown what they can do with second round picks as well. So I am off the Bronny bandwagon. I don't need all the media attention for a guy that's going to sit on the end of the bench.
Well, when you think about that, I mean, Sam, let's be real. Is Bronny really going to sit on the end of the bench, though? Like, are you really hating on his skills?
Yes.
he's proven he could play at every level he's done so far. Like he continues to prove the doubters wrong. But we're not going to get into semantics until it's done. When once the Timberwolves draft him and he's the 7th or 8th man off the bench, Sam, I expect you to have a Bronny jersey on every show on Fridays. How about that?
If Bronny is the 7th or 8th guy in the rotation, I will get a Bronny tattoo. And I will wear it proudly if he does that. I would be very happy for him if he did that.
Oh, I want him to be now. I really want it to happen so we can just have a show, a live show from a tattoo parlor of Sam getting his tattoo.
Bronny's going to be good buddies with Luka Garza. He and Luka Garza are going to get to know each other. Wendell Moore, Leonard Miller, those guys are going to be hanging out on the end of the bench. They're going to be part of the pointing celebration. Remember the
that's why I wanted the Timberwolves to kind of be or the Lynx, and we'll talk about that in a minute, to be a little bit bad so that the Timberwolves can draft Bronny, and then or maybe no, it'll be 2 more years anyway. So the Lynx can end up drafting what's her name? Juju. And now you got Love and Basketball for real. They're both in the league. Bronny's like what's his name? Not Tay Diggs, but the other one. Who's the other guy?
Omar
Epps. Yep. And then she can be the Sinai Lathan. Like that would have been perfect. In Minnesota, Love and Basketball. Come on now. It writes itself. But Reggie, what do you think? Are you, because I know you're an LA guy, Reggie. You're a Laker guy, you're a Bron guy. Your new coach now is JJ Redick. Yeah. But are you for Bronny? Would you like Bronny to come to your team in LA? Because they did get JJ. That could happen. Or would you like the Timberwolves to, maybe pull the trigger on them? And Sam, are you saying you don't think he'll be there in the second round? Is that what the kind of reports are saying?
Well, I don't know. I have no idea because I don't necessarily think he's like throw the book out for evaluating this prospect because he's probably not like a viable draft prospect. He's in this because he knows he's going to get picked because of his lineage. See, all the articles I've read indicate that he's probably not like a first round prospect. So I would guess second round.
And I just watched, I don't know if you guys saw the viral clip of Perk getting mad at the crew for talking about Bronny. And he's like, why are we talking about a second round pick at the top of the hour? And they're like, because his dad is the #1 player in basketball. Baby. He's like, so let's talk about his dad. Why are we talking about him? So I think it's a smokescreen by Rich Paul and Clutch Sports. Like, I think they're doing a great job of marketing him, not allowing him to work out for a lot of teams so that people get nervous of who might take him, and then they pull the trigger quick and like, all right, let's draft him. Hurry up, let's draft him. And I could see the Timberwolves getting him at 37. But what were you gonna say, Julia?
I said, didn't he admit that's the strategy? That's what
Who, Rich Paul?
Yeah. Like,
I didn't know if he admitted it. I know he just said he doesn't want Bronny to work out for teams that aren't serious about giving him a contract.
No, he said this is a strategic move. There's a reason he's only worked out for 2 teams. So.
See, and that's what I'm saying. I thought it was because he knows those GMs, which one of them, of course, now is I'm guessing Clutch already knew. They already knew JJ Redick was going to go there, but I think it's more of like these teams are actually willing, because you can draft them and then not sign them. Like you can draft them, give them a bonus, and then boom, you're out. You didn't make the team. So I think he's looking at teams that actually will draft him and then keep him on the team and not just do a media circus so that they're Vegas. Because Vegas is going to be popping this summer. Like whoever Bronny goes to, Vegas is going to be popping. So like LeBron's going to be there. And if LA, like if he doesn't go and his dad's team plays his team, LeBron's playing the summer league. Like he's going to play in that game, just play against his son one time. Like, trust me, when it happens, I want this clip to be played back. Whoever Bronny's playing for summer league, LeBron will play. But Reggie, what are your thoughts on that?
Right. I'm just gonna slow you down because this feels a lot like First Take right now. And so let's not do that. Bronny, no.
LeBron will play against Bronny.
If Bronny was not linked to LeBron James, he may not even be drafted. Just being real. Being real. He may not even be drafted. Yeah. He should still be in college.
True.
He should still be in college. Take some more time, grow your game. I really hate that he had the medical incident because I wonder if he plays any different, if he is any different, if he didn't have that cardiac arrest before the season started. And so I think he's still trying to get his legs underneath him. I think he's still trying to, get up to speed. But honestly, he just looks like a guy who just needs some time. Like he's not the type of can't miss prospect that his dad was. He's a bit undersized. And, I don't think the Timberwolves would or should think about drafting him in that first round. I actually am looking at guys like, funny enough, Cam Christie there at the end of the first round. I could see that more than I can see Bronny. Actually, every draft, I have my draft crush.
Mm.
This year, my draft crush is Terrence Shannon Jr. for these reasons. Okay. So look, we saw he had the legal trouble, but he was acquitted from the legal trouble. He is 23 and he'll be 24 when the season starts. But here's the thing. Last year, he made a pretty sizable jump with his numbers. He scored 23 points a game. He shot 48% from the field. He's 6'6", has size, has range, can finish at the rim. And then during the postseason run, including the Big Ten and their run to the Elite Eight, he averaged 31 points, 3 boards, and nearly 3 assists a game. Now, look, now that he's gotten acquitted from the charges, like he's going to get his jersey put in the rafters at Illinois after only just one season playing there, which is crazy to think about. But also, I think now that kind of ups his draft stock and his draft profile, and he probably is not there when the Timberwolves draft. But if for some reason he just happens to fall, I just think that that's something, and he's a little bit more mature as well, being that he's an older guy. I think that's a guy who can come in and be a guy coming off the bench that can really help. And the Timberwolves need a guy like that who can come in and get some minutes and get some buckets for the team, especially if they're running at 40, 42 minutes a game and guys are getting gassed and you need someone else who could score. I think a guy like that makes a lot of sense, and not a guy like Bronny who probably won't even see the floor his rookie season.
I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to agree with Sam on this one. I don't see this happening. I don't see the Wolves making this move. I think we've seen one insider source say that the Wolves are interested, but I think that they do have to be very strategic when it comes to this draft, like you said, because this is their last real draft of the future for a few years. I also would like to say, Ron, saying that Bronny has proved himself at every level is not an accurate statement either, because he really hasn't proved himself at the collegiate level. And that's not necessarily his own fault because of the health issues that he had, but he was averaging low single digits on every single
6
stat.
points, like 5.6 points.
Yeah. So I don't think the Wolves are one to do something like that. I do think if he does get drafted, it will be in the second round. I'd be shocked at the first round if he goes in the first round, but I don't think the Wolves are going to do something like that. You also have to think about, like, when it comes to the NBA, like, can you see Bronny and all the entourage and things that come with him coming here to Minnesota? Also, Minnesota itself, but also with guys like Ant and if Cat is still here, how does that play out too, with just because you do have to take into account personalities and egos and things like that. But yeah, I don't see the Wolves doing something like that, because I think that they are focused on the money because they're already an expensive team and they do have to think about things like that. But who knows? It would be interesting for sure, but I definitely don't see it happening here.
Well, I would like to see it. I am on the side of bring Bronny to Minnesota. The Mall America could use you. LeBron might come on.
The Bronny and Ron show. Let's get him on Locked On.
See? The Bronny and Ronnie. Let's look at that. See? The Bronny and Ronnie show. Hey, every Wednesday, right after the basketball party, me and Bronny jump on. We talk a little basketball for 25 minutes like JJ Redick and LeBron. Like, come on. That's a heater right there. But there's the thing. I've liked, and maybe I'm buying too much into high school, and I get it. I watched the high school highlights when he was at Sierra Canyon. Bronny put up nice numbers there. He was an extremely athletic, powerful jumper. I think this year in college, he was scared. Like he was emotionally scared, he was mentally scared, he was drained, almost died. I mean, he had a heart attack. So when you think about that at that age, my goodness, like what is going on in the world when kids are having heart attacks? Or whatever. Maybe it's a heart defect that we didn't even know about. Like I know that came up a lot of times. Everybody all of a sudden had heart defects that we didn't know existed. But to be that young and have that happen, that's got to be the scariest thing in the world. So I think this year was more of like, let me just see how I feel. Because I thought about that with my daughter when she got her cast off. She went and played right away that Friday after she got her cast off last weekend. And I'm like, she played fine, but her coach said she didn't look as confident at certain times. I'm like, yeah, because she literally just got the cast off 14 hours ago. And so I think it's like, and then we took her to hit last night and she was on like 55, 58 mile an hour, like just heaters. And so I'm like, all right, this is definitely like, I got to come off of my injury and see if my body can do what I know it can do. And I think that's where Bronny's at. I don't know if he trusted his body to do everything it could do. I'm not saying he would come in and be a starter, but I think he's a potential piece to some team's future. Just because of his IQ. Like he has a high basketball IQ. He always makes the right pass, makes the right play, and he's not a ball hog. So I don't know. I like it. And of course, we know LeBron only has maybe 1 or 2 years left. It might not happen that he plays with them, but he might play against them in the summer league in Vegas. Timberwolves versus Lakers. LeBron is going to suit up. Trust me. It's going to be like a movie with Michael Jordan rips the warm. He's going to be in the crowd like a dad, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, give me a jersey. He's going to jump on the court, play against his son. It's going to be a movie. As Cam Bynum would say, movie. But we got to talk about the Twins now because they are having a historic Royce Lewis, I guess, comeback. Angels in the outfield type. Julia, what's going on with the Twins?
Angels in the outfield. I mean, Royce is back. We hope he's here to stay, right, Twins fans? That's the main problem with Royce Lewis. Everything else is great. It's just how healthy can he stay? 14 games this season. What did you say yesterday, Reggie? 8 homers in 14 games. He's better than he was last year. I would argue. I would say at the plate is where he's obviously the most valuable. He's not striking out quite as much. I mean, granted, we don't have a lot of like content to really go off of right now, but we can go off of what we've seen so far, and it looks good. He's not striking out like he was, at least right now. He's adding a few more walks in there, but mostly he's hitting the way that you want Royce Lewis to hit. And I think the question that we posed here was what? Royce Lewis officially passed Byron Buxton as the most exciting Twins player to watch? Listen, we love a big Buck homer. We love when Buck can be clutch, but Royce has shown that even in the short time that he's played this season, he's more consistent. You can have a little bit more confidence. When he's in the on-deck circle and there's 2 guys on, I think I have a little more faith in the fact that he's going to hit the ball rather than if Buck was in the on-deck circle. So, yeah, I would say also just like as somebody who's talked to this guy at events and in the clubhouse and things like that, he's such a likable guy too. So you want to root for him. He's always willing to chat with you about whatever and this, that, and the other. And then he goes out there and he does what he does. The main issue with Royce is unfortunately a similar thing to Buck in that you just hope that he stays healthy for the rest of the season. And that's yet to be determined because you haven't seen a season out of him where he stayed healthy the whole time and hasn't missed large portions of everything. So, yeah, he's super exciting when he's healthy. And I hope that he stays that way and keeps hitting like he has been. Obviously, you can't expect the guy to consistently hit like this. If he did, that would be insane. And that would also be something to note and say, you know, he's one of the most exciting players in the MLB at that point. I think he's well on his way to that point, but right now, just speaking for the Twins, yeah, I would argue that he's one of the most exciting guys to watch.
Yeah, he is, no doubt. And it's for that reason that I get so nervous about, you know, the Byron Buxton comparison, because how many times did we declare that Byron Buxton had arrived, that the superstardom, you know, was going to carry over for years and years, and it never sustained itself. It was flashes of brilliance, and then injuries caught up. And Royce has such an injury resume already by age 25. 1 month and 4 days. That's the longest stretch that he's played for the Minnesota Twins before suffering a serious injury. 1 month and 4 days of games. This year he's played 16. All right. Got 16 days under his belt. Now you got to do this. You got to do this for 140 games a year, right? To be really part of this thing and not just, a flash in the pan here and there. So I'm cautiously optimistic. It feels like he's got superstardom written all over him. With the way that he can come up with timely hits, almost had a jolt yesterday for a walk-off home run, almost left the yard. He has that it factor about him. Byron Buxton could not stay healthy because of his own talent, because of kind of his recklessness on the base pads and in the outfield. I think that they're probably taking a little better care of Royce in that sense. But will he ultimately be able to stay out of his own way? I don't know. We'll see. I am just so excited for Lewis and also nervous at the same time that he is going down the Byron Buxton path.
Reggie.
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I will say though, just based on his performance alone, that he has ascended to really the most exciting player on the Twins roster right now. Carlos Correa is doing pretty well. And you give him his credit for that, but there is nothing like Royce Lewis when he's hot. And what's crazy too, last night, Corey Provis got in a little bit of, whatever. I thought it was fine, but when Miranda tied that game up and then Royce came up and he hit that ball, I thought it was out. Julia and Ryan were in the sports office, and I'm like, oh. And they looked up at the screen. They were like, oh, no, that's going to stay in the ballpark. And I guess Corey Provis got excited because he thought that thing was out of here too, and it stayed in the ballpark. And the Twins ended up losing their second straight, which was a disappointment. But that speaks to the excitement of Royce Lewis. Whenever he's up at the plate, you feel like he has a chance to take that ball and put it in still water. Like, I think that's the excitement. I still remember the postseason last year when they did have a healthy Royce Lewis during their playoff run. It was exciting, man. He propelled them to that next round of the postseason. And whenever he got up to bat, there was like this palpable energy in the ballpark, like, oh man, what is Royce going to do? Is he about to hit this grand slam? Boom, hits the grand slam. You're like, oh my gosh, this dude is better than candy. Like, so I just think that the hope is he continues to stay healthy. I think the one thing that you want to see is him to just go ahead and finish out this season. Like, you've already missed so much time this year with that injury. They were really conservative to not bring him back so soon. And you hope that helped. What you want to see, because you see all these numbers, getting to Ron's point. Yeah, there were MLB Network guys on there already like, oh yeah, if he, stretches this out to 162 game, pace, he's a top 10 player in the league. But that's the problem. Like, you can't stretch him out to 162 because it's just not possible because of the games that he's played and the time that he's missed already. And so you hope that he can play every game moving forward from here for the rest of the season. And then we kind of reassess and look at his value. But you hope that the big injuries are behind him now. But he plays with such reckless abandon. And even just his swing is violent. Like, everything that he does, he puts his whole being into. And that just scares the you-know-what out of people. Whenever he's up to plate, whenever he's up to the plate, and whenever he's fielding, whenever he's running, whenever he's even walking to the dugout, you're just like, okay, dude, just take your time, be careful. Because you want to put them in bubble wrap and protect them at all costs.
Well, the one thing I like about this, Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, you got Max Kepler, you got Byron Buxton. And at different parts of like seasons, you could kind of name any of the guys and say, well, this is the guy now everybody's on. This is the guy now everybody's on. Byron Buxton is just the guy everybody wanted to be the guy. He's been the guy. And then I think, Sam, you're right with the injuries. But he's been able to play 56 games this year. He's only had, home runs wise, he had 4. He has had 4. Based on balls, he's had 9. Royce Lewis has had 8 in 15 games based on balls. That means he is in the box being extremely particular. He's being extremely cautious. He's waiting for his pitch, as most hitting coaches would say, and then he's tagging it. There's no trash cans at target field, and there's nobody with a buzzer helping him to hit. This guy is doing it all natural, no cheating. 15 games, 9 home runs, 13 RBIs, 9 strikeouts. He has a 3.77 average right now, 452 on base percentage. 452. That means he's almost half the time he's up, he's getting on base. And again, small sample size, only 53 at bats, but that is huge. 53 at bats, and he's half of them he's gotten on base. Where you look at some guys with 200 plus, 100 plus, and their batting average or their on base percentage is well under that. So that's what I think everybody's excited about, is what does 30 games look like? What does 90 games even look like? If he just hit 90, give him 90 games. Can he do this for 90 games? And then the key from there is, now can he stay healthy, and is Minnesota just overall cursed? But yeah, I think Royce Lewis right now, at least the way the TV people talk about him, the way the big time, Harold Reynolds and some of these A-Rod and some of the guys that get on Jeter, the way these guys talk about him on TV, and Big Papi, I think he is potentially one of, Mookie Betts even went on a podcast and talked about him, that he's one, in his mind, he's one of the top 10 players. So, but again, hindsight versus recency biased, that's what we're dealing right now. Royce Lewis, recency bias, is a top 10 player. He is the face of the Twins, in my opinion, with recency bias. And that's all I'm going off. Well, now we got to jump into one last topic, of course, because your man Reggie wants to talk a little bit about this WNBA. He's super excited about it, by the way, people. He's been texting and tweeting and chatting about it all night and all day. And he got up early and was here early, like the first day of school, to talk about the WNBA. So we'll do that and much more real quick. But I got to let you guys know, SiriusXM, just go to any app market. Make sure you download the SiriusXM app. Just search SXM, and it'll download right there to your phone. And then you can get Locked On Sports Minnesota, get all your shows. Also go on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. We're trying to get those subscribers to 10,000 people by the football season. We need to get to 10,000. Go to YouTube. Tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend about a friend. That friend knows that we're on YouTube. Go to YouTube. You just need your email address. Search Locked On Sports Minnesota. Hit subscribe, and you'll get all of our live updates, all of our shows, all of our videos, and you'll get to see how cool we are when we break down these games after the Vikings win and shock the world this year and go 11 and whatever else there is out there. 11, what is that? 11-6? 11-6. They're going to shock the world. And JJ McCarthy is going to be the backup to Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's going to get a new contract with a new team 2 years from now. And Kevin O'Connell is going to get all the credit. But we'll talk about all that and much more later in the season as we get to football. But now, Reggie, take it away.
All right. So I won't take too much time with this, but the question is, are the Lynx the best in the West? And are the Lynx the best in the W? And I think that there is an argument to be made. And you kind of look at the team as a whole, and the chemistry is off the charts. You got to give it to Cheryl and Carly and Claire doing their thing over there with the Lynx, because there was a chance maybe to take Angel Reese. They decided that they wanted to make a deal with Chicago. They ended up taking Alyssa Peely, and she really hasn't been used, especially when you look at how much they used Diamond Miller last year. They've really just been able to keep her on the bench and just allow her to develop because, people like Alana Smith has been a revelation this year. You look at the way the Lynx are doing it this year, and this is why I think that they're one of the best, if not the best team in the W. Nafisa Collier is having an MVP level year. With 3 out of the last 4 games, she scored 16 points, 16 points, 14 points. She had the 30-point game against Vegas. She hasn't had to shoulder all of the load for them to win. Last game, when they beat the Atlanta Dream, she's like, man, this is ugly. Like, we got to play better. They won by 13. They're still doing the electric slide at the end of the games because they're winning. And I think that's the mark of a really good team. When your star player doesn't have to do everything and you still win by double digits, that says a lot about this team. And I think that gives them a lot of confidence, and that gives maybe a lot of the Lynx fans a lot of confidence that, maybe it's not like the dynasty seasons. And, there's still, the Connecticut Sun, the New York Liberty, those are two of the top teams in the W right now. But the cool thing about it is the Lynx have beat the Liberty. They play them again next week in the Commissioner's Cup, which will be a very good game, a fun game to watch. And they are humming right now. Cheryl talks about their chemistry and just how they love and enjoy playing together, and they just look like they're having fun out there. Whenever they even get down, it seems like, oh, they'll bring it back. And we've seen that several times when they've gotten down in the third quarter, they've brought it back, and they've ended up winning by double digits. This is a mark of a good team, and if they try to get this thing going on the offensive end and they make more shots, watch out, because they're already playing well.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll say about them, when you look at the Lynx and how they do it, the biggest thing for that is I like Nafisa Collier as well. But Julia, when you think about the Lynx and what they've done so far, what are your thoughts on that? Quick, you're muted.
Muted.
Sorry, everybody.
All good. All good.
It's a lot of what Reggie said too. It's just the reliability that they have on each other. I also think Courtney Williams, only her second season starting as a point guard, has been phenomenal for this team. I think she's been such a sleeper pickup for them in the offseason. I think her personality adds a lot to this roster too. And Nafisa Collier has just gone above and beyond as a captain of this team. And she's obviously proven herself. She's going to the Olympics and whatnot, but the chemistry between her and Cheryl in particular and the way that they can rely and communicate with each other is something that is so special for this team. And I think that that's been a huge key to their success so far this season.
This is all I need as proof of their supremacy in the WNBA. Number one in field goal percentage and three-point percentage, defensively as well. Number one in opponent field goal percentage and three-point percentage. They can shoot and they can defend. That's all I need to see.
All I'm saying is, if you're talking about putting people in a bubble, put Nafisa Collier in a bubble. She cannot get hurt with this run. The way she's playing, she means everything to this team, and we don't have time for that. We saw that in Love and Basketball. She got hurt. Sanaa Lathan stepped up. I don't see a Sanaa Lathan on this bench for the Lynx. Nafisa Collier, stay healthy. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Exner. That's Reggie Wilson. Julia Daniels. I want to thank you guys for joining us today on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Friday Roundtable. Enjoy your weekend, people. Get an umbrella. Maybe go to a mall and check out a movie. But we'll be back next week with more topics. Stay tuned for that, and we're looking forward to it.